minds. Has everyone received communion? If you've not received communion, please raise your hand. The Bible says, as often as you do this, do the remembrance of me. What do we remember? We remember the fact that Jesus Christ gave himself to the cross. Cracker symbolic of his body, which was beaten and broken. The juice is symbolic of the blood that was shed. They whipped him all night long. Never said a mumbling word. Could have ordered angels to be dispatched from heaven. But he stayed there because he loved us. He took the lashes, 39 lashes, nails in his hands and in his feet, a crown of 72 thorns, crushed his skull. And in that moment, when he could have said anything, he extended to us eternal mercy. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. We remember. And they put him in a borrowed tomb. It was borrowed because he had no intention on staying there. Even on the third day, he got up with all power in his hands. Because he got up, you and I can get up. He has extended to us resurrection power. To Jesus Christ, let us eat and drink all of it. Shall we pray? Gracious God, how we do thank you for your amazing grace. Thank you for your exceptional love. Thank you for your loving kindness. Thank you, oh God, that you've been better to us than we could have been to ourselves. Thank you for keeping us when it would have been so easy to discard us or to discount us. God, you've kept us. You've been far better to us, oh God, than we have ever and could have even hoped to have been to ourselves. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you, Master, for hanging in there with us and for us. Thank you for loving us enough to stay there and to not come down. Thank you that you endured the brutality of the cross and the shame of being spit on and poked and prodded and nailed, and you did it all for us and then had the nerve to call us friends. We just want you to know we love you today. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Go ahead and pass your receptacles down to the end. The trash cans are being passed. Amen. Listen, I want to take a moment as the praise team is getting ready to come back for last song. I'm going to mention birthdays and anniversaries. I just want you to know I'm not going to take the time. On next week, we will do all of the anniversaries and birthdays and have you stand and clap and have all the fun. Today, I just want to say happy birthday for those of you who have a birthday this month. And happy anniversary to those of you who have anniversaries this month. We love, honor, and celebrate you in the utmost way. And we can't wait to celebrate you on next Sunday. Amen? But because we're going to be out of here in just a few minutes, the praise team is going to come and give us a brief selection. And we'll be right back with the Word of God. Amen? Amen.
How many know that God is our everything? Everything you are, God is thankful for. We just celebrate everything you are because you're good.
Whoa.
strong God we serve. So as we prepare to close out our series on the family, I want to share the book of Ruth. I want us to read just enough scriptures to kind of get the gist of this. I don't think you can read just one passage and then I don't have the time to go back and talk through it. So if you get the gist of the story, then we can go ahead and preach through it. So in the book of Ruth, beginning at chapter 1, I'll be reading from the New International Version, the NIV, but in your hearing, you'll find words that are very similar to these. We're going to read from chapter 1, starting at verse 14, and we'll read through 18. It says, "At this they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. 'Look,' said Naomi, 'your sister-in-law is going back to her people and to her gods. Go back with her.' But Ruth replied, 'Listen, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Listen, where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I'll die, and we will be buried. May the Lord deal with me ever so severely if even death separates you and me.' And when Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her." In chapter 2, we'll begin reading at verse 1 through verse 3. It simply says, "Now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth, the Moabite, said to Naomi, 'Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor.' Naomi said to her, 'Go ahead, my daughter.' So she went out and entered a field and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech." Amen. Verse 8. Verse 8 says, "So Boaz said to Ruth, 'My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I've told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you're thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars and the men have filled.' At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, 'Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?'" I imagine her saying that, had a little Southern Belle voice. "Now, how have you noticed me, a foreigner?" I mean, just in my head, that's how I heard it. You have to add character to get the gist of the story. Chapter 3, beginning at verse 1, it says, "One day Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, 'My daughter, I must find a home for you, where you will be provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he'll be winnowing barley in the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor. But listen, don't let him know you're there until he's finished eating and drinking. Then when he lies down, note the place where he's lying. Then go over and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do.' 'I'll do whatever you say,' Ruth answered." In chapter 4, we'll begin reading at verse 5. This is all going to make sense in a minute. It says, "Then Boaz said, 'On the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. At this, the guardian redeemer said, then I cannot redeem it, because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself, bless you. I cannot do it. And if you skip right on down to the end of that, you go down to verse 13, it says, so Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The women who said to Naomi, praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. Amen. For just a few moments with this thought in mind, starting forever again. Starting forever again. You may be seated. Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Starting forever again. This is, as we close out this series, there are often times when two young lovers have stood at the hymnal altar and who gazed into each other's eyes and declared their undying love for one another. And as they stood there at the altar before the preacher and before witnesses, they declared that they were going to be together until death do them part. That we're going to be together forever. And I believe that most people mean that when they say it. But then somehow life gets in the way. Somehow situations and circumstances just end up doing to a relationship what only life and circumstances can do, and somehow that live and thriving relationship ends up dead. And to maintain integrity with the text, because in this text, Naomi, who is the mother-in-law of Orpah and Ruth, all of their husbands have died. They're all dead, and so now they're all widows. Oftentimes, widow is one way that people's relationship experiences death. But sometimes it's not just through being widowed. Sometimes it's through divorce. Sometimes it has been through abuse. Sometimes it has been through many ways. People have found themselves at the point where their relationship that once was thriving and full of life is now dead. And however you got there, this is where the end. I've got good news that you can start forever again. Have I got a witness here? And so what happens is we look at this text and we see what Naomi and what Ruth are going through. And if you read in chapter 1, as their husbands have died, Naomi is trying to send Ruth and Orpah back to their families. She's saying, listen, I don't have anything for you. I'm not going to have any more children, and I'm not going to have any more sons. And even if by chance I did get pregnant and did have some sons, are you all going to wait until those sons are old enough to marry you? She said, listen, go back to your mother's house. Go back to your mothers. Go back to your families. And perhaps when you go back to your families, perhaps they can find somebody where they are who will take good care of you all. He said, listen, don't y'all sit around here and wait for me. And so Orpah said, you know what, you sure right. She kissed her mother-in-law, said, I love you, and threw up the pieces. And that's the last time they ever heard from Orpah. But Ruth said, listen, I ain't going back. I'm going to rock with you the whole time. Where you go, that's where I'm going to go. Where you lie, that's where I'm going to lie. And we're going to be dead somewhere together. I'm not leaving you. And she said, stop telling me to leave. And so the Bible says that when Naomi saw that even urging her was irking her, she stopped doing it. And so they go on, and then in chapter 2, she says, listen, I want you to, we have one of our family members, his name is Boaz. He's a wealthy farmer and landowner. I want you to go and to work his land, but here's what you do. She said, we're going to go, and when you get there, follow behind the person who you feel like you find in favor. If somebody's winking at you, if somebody's flirting at you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to collect the grain that they drop. because that will be an indication that they are wanting you to have their grain. And the Bible says that sure enough, she was working in Boaz's field, and she was a hard worker. But the person whose attention she caught was Boaz. Right. And so Boaz, when he saw her, he said to the other workers, "Leave that one alone." He said, in fact, he didn't do anything to flirt with her per se, but he gave her a little extra something. Yeah. Now you have to understand, if you read in the context, within context, Boaz was a much older gentleman. And so Ruth was much younger, so he was like, man, this little young girl can't do nothing with me, but feed me my diabetic pills, hand me my high blood pressure medicine. I can't do nothing with her. And so she said, but he just took good care of her. He kept throwing grain her way all through chapter 2. That's what you see. And then, but it's in chapter 3 that Naomi says to Ruth, she said, I've got to find you a good man. He said, I've seen the way Boaz has continued to give you grain, how he's left the stalks out for you, and he's giving you a little extra something. Maybe that's just a sign and an indication that maybe Boaz is the one for you. And she said, well, surely we'll see. She said, here's what I want you to do. Listen to me. I'm going to tell you what to do. And she said, and Ruth says, whatever you say, Naomi, I'm going to do it. And so she said, listen, so the first thing I want you to take a bath. I'm coming back to all this. He said, take a bath. He said, put on your nice oils and your sweet smelling perfume. And then go lay down. He said, wait till he's done eating and drinking, and then go lay at his feet. Let me try it one more time. You already know how the story ends. But let me watch. So I wanted to give you the gist of the story. Now let me slow walk you through some of these processes. Because a lot of people, in fact, statistically, 50% of the world, those who are getting married or divorced, more than half of the marriages today are remarriages. I mean, the statistics are startling about blended families and people who are starting love all over again for the second time. The numbers are exceptionally high. So if you're going to find love again, then there's a couple things that you better learn from the first time around. The first thing you better learn is to let the right people speak over your marriage. Listen, I ain't got a lot of time, so I better hurry up and say amen. And so you got to let the right people speak over your marriage. Many a marriage, many a relationship have been ruined by a third party. Don't turn my mic off. So many relationships have been ruined, so many marriages in demise, not because of the two people who were involved in the relationship, but oftentimes because of a third party that has been involved in the relationship or in the marriage. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Be careful who you let speak over your marriage. Now watch this, because sometimes, now watch this, in this case, Naomi is the one speaking over the marriage, over this second marriage. Now, sometimes it's not going to be your mother-in-law. But for sermon's sake, I'm just going to say not all family is qualified. Somebody be riding home on your way to your assignment to be the church, and somebody will tell you heard what the pastor said, your mother-in-law ain't supposed to tell, and then ain't gonna be no be in the church, ain't gonna be what people gonna be waiting on y'all to get there. What happened? We had to make a stop. We had to stop being the church. So for the sake of the sermon, we're not going to talk about mother-in-laws one way or the other. You understand what I'm saying? So we're just going to say all family is not qualified to speak over your marriage. It's a tricky situation right here with Naomi. Why? Because it's tricky because Naomi's relationship was dead too. But the difference is, watch this, she saw life in others' relationships even when hers was dead. Let me try it again. See, it's one thing for your situation to be dead, but you still see life and hope for somebody else. It's another thing for your situation to be dead, and you can't stand to see nobody else's situation live. And so what happened is, in verse, you see this in chapter 3, verse 1, is that she wanted the best for Ruth. And so even though her situation was dead, she wasn't mad at the fact that her daughter still could have life in hers. Let me tell you something. You got to stop letting bitter people best friend. I don't care if they your road dog. I don't care if they your ride or die. I don't care if they know where all your bodies are buried. If you want your marriage to survive, you cannot let angry, bitter people speak over and into your marriage. Well, if y'all just walk away with that one point, we're going to be all right. If you just walk away understanding that there are some people who are just not qualified to speak over your stuff. And let me pause. I know we ain't got a lot of time, but let me pause and pray that. You know this, show? Because sometimes it's not just your marriage, it's the other stuff in your life. There are some people who can't speak over your finances. There's some people who can't speak over your children. It ain't that they're not sweet, loving, kind people who love you. They're just not qualified. Teach. You know what? I went to the the pharmacy yesterday to pick up a prescription that I have for myself. I had to pick up a prescription. Do you know that when I went to get my prescription, do you know that they wouldn't just give it to me? I mean, Paul, you ain't gonna believe. I mean, they knew me up there. And they said, well, your prescription is out. They said, we will not give you a refill, Reg, until you talk to a qualified person who says, we can give you this. Listen, if the pharmacy says, we know this is what you need, but we can't just give it to you without having somebody qualified to okay that we can give it. Come here, church. Because the one thing that you better understand is that if the pharmacy thinks that much about their stuff and they know me, how much more should we consider who we let speak over and into our lives because we know them? Let me hear y'all. Listen. You gotta watch who speaks over your situation. But the second thing is don't settle for people who don't value you. All right, so in chapter 2, we see that she tells her what she said. Listen, she said, get your smell goods on, get yourself together because I want you to go do this, and I want you to meet Boaz. I want you to meet him where he is, and so she gets herself together. Bless you. She goes, but then watch this. It's in chapter 4 right here. Chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. Because let me explain something to you. I'm gonna back into this thing. Because in chapter 4, once she does, and she goes and lays at Boaz's feet. Now let me try it again. She went and she said, Ruth, Naomi told her, said, listen, go uncover his feet and lay there. Let me try it one more time. Don't pull the covers back and bag that thing up on him. I see too many of us dealing with this heartbreak because we done uncovered the wrong parts. He said, uncover his feet. Uncover his feet. And then you lay at his feet. Listen, he done had a lot to eat. He done had a lot to drink. Don't uncover a lot.
Preach, Pastor.
If you want him to value you, only uncover enough. You can't show and unleash everything if you wanted to call you back to money. Uncover his feet and lay there. Why? Because he needs to know that wherever he's going, you can go with him. So I wish I had time to do all this, but it's in the book. She uncovers his feet. She lays there. He wakes up and it startles him. Read the whole thing. It's a short read. It's just 4 chapters. It startles him. He says, what are you doing? And she says, listen. But watch this. He knew what to do. And let me tell you what he didn't do. He didn't sit down and say, ooh, that's what's up. That's what's up. I see you down there coming up here. He didn't say that to her. he said, baby, don't even tell nobody you was here.
Yeah.
He said, in fact, just go get your little extra grain. He said, because I'm going to do some negotiating. Watch this. Because I really want you, I'm going to do what it takes to have you to ring. So you know what? The first thing she had to do was she had to value herself. If you don't value you, others will undervalue you. Don't settle just because you're lonely. Don't stop settling because you see everybody else walking around holding hands and you miss that. Don't settle because you got needs. I'm trying to help somebody today. Because a whole lot of people who had needs have that same need for 18 more years. So the first thing she had to value herself. Listen, the wrong companionship will cost you if you're not careful. So stay on Instagram watching everybody hold hands and kiss. Stop being on Facebook looking at weddings. You mad? My hair don't even look right under that veil. Stop putting yourself in position to feel and be lonely.
Right. Oh, I wish you had time to preach.
I got 14 minutes to finish. And understand something about this. She has to value herself, but then watch this. People who are on that second have to value the opportunity.
Yes.
This is what happens. Let's read verse 5 and verse 6. Let me explain to you what's going on right here in chapter 4, verse 5 and verse 6. Look at this. It says, then Boaz said, listen, on the day that you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth, the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. Let me keep that screen up, but let me explain to you what's happening right here. So Boaz says, no, stay right there. He said, Boaz is saying, listen, I told you I'm going to do this. I am going to be willing to pay the price. He said, but if I want to do it the right way, he says, that means I've got to buy you, your property, all of it, because I know that if I take care of all of your expenses, you come with that.
Yeah.
But he did not have the first right. So he had to go to the other man who had the first right to buy the property and said, listen. He said, listen, if you want to buy the land, and then that's what he lets him know. He says, yeah, you need to know that Ruth comes with the property.
Yeah.
And if you have a son with her, if you lay with her and she gets pregnant, you need to know that her son's name will be the name on the property.
Right.
Try it one more time.
Yeah, right.
So the other man said, man, I ain't going to be able to do that. Let's read verse 6. It says, at this, the guardian redeemer said, man, and I can't redeem it. He says, because listen, it may endanger my own. So he said, listen, I can't let her mess up the thing I got going on.
Right.
He said, listen, he said, so here's what he said. He said, you redeem it yourself. He said, I can't do it.
Right.
You pay all the expenses. Listen, you can let her son have your stuff.
Right.
But I got kids.
Right.
And I can't let her kids come in my life and have all this stuff.
Yeah.
We can't become a blended family and her son become the heir to all I work for. So Boaz said, no problem.
Yeah. That's good.
He said, no problem. He said, I'm willing to pay that price for her.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm saying. He valued the opportunity.
Yeah.
He said, I don't care. I will take her. I will take her kids. I will take whatever it takes because I love her. And here's what he did. I love how Boaz set this thing up, because when he came to offer him the property, he called 10 witnesses, because that's how you did things. You called 10 elders who were witnesses, so that whenever y'all agreed, that everybody would know that that's your land. That everybody would know who your wife is. That everybody would know, so they would bag up and give her 10 feet. And so that's, 50 feet, right? And so that's how they did. That was a process. And it was a strange exchange, because they exchanged sandals. It's right there in the text. Read. And oftentimes in the ancient Israelite time, I can't wait till we get there, they would exchange sandals. And that was how you had another man's shoe, and that's how you knew that was a done deal. I got your sandal. I'm telling you, read right there in the text. In fact, if you read, I don't read it, probably don't have it up there. If you just read verse 7, you'll see that. And so you have to understand. So now this was a done deal. And so here's the question. What will they do different this time around?
That's a good question.
What will be different about their relationship this time? This ain't in the text. I'm asking the church this. Because so many times we want to find forever all over again.
Yeah.
But when you find forever the next time, if you have the same mentality and you still don't value you, and if you think that you can trick God into thinking that you're ready when you really ain't, because if God said yes today and sent you exactly what you're looking for, how many people would you have to kick out your life?
Say it.
If God said yes to the thing that you've been wanting today, how many people have the exit stage left?
Come on, Pastor. That's the word right there.
They just place fillers to the Lord. Well, then you ain't ready.
Right.
Because the Lord does not have to send you. You can't fool him. You ain't ready. You're not ready to make the sacrifice that it will take, even especially those times when you upset. Y'all ain't listen. It's too many people who get upset and ruin their relationship because they've never learned to exercise discipline. Let me close this. I got 9 minutes. Listen. The last thing is make up your mind to never go backwards. If you're going to do forever again, you have to make up your mind. Chapter 1. You have to make up your mind to never go backwards. What do you mean, preacher? Let me tell you why Naomi was ready. It's right there in verse 16. It says, but Ruth replied. She tried to get her to go somewhere else and get somebody else. She gave her every legitimate reason and excuse to excuse herself from her presence and go back to your mama can find somebody for you. Your auntie got somebody that she can introduce you to. Go back. But because Ruth had a made-up mind, she had a mindset that said, I will not go backwards. That's how you knew that she was ready. You got to decide that you're all in from the beginning. And so look at what she says. She says, listen, she tried to send her back, verse 16. It says, but Ruth replied, listen, don't urge me to leave you. She said, listen, don't stop pushing me away. I told you I'm all in. Let me try it one more time. Don't urge me to leave or turn back from. Listen, where you go, that's where I'm going. I like King James. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Where you stay, in modern version. Where you stay, I'm going to stay. In fact, where you die, that's what it doesn't matter. I'm all in with you. Come on now. And if we literally took our vows to me, I'm all in with you. I'm going to die with your sorry self. When you go, I'm going. If you leave me, I'm going with you. Yeah. Ride or die. When you die, Bible says we don't die together. I'm dying, but you know that. That's what the scripture says, Jay. It says, listen, when you go, that's where I'm going. You know, when you die, that's where I'm dying. Right? When you say, that's what I'm saying. Listen, she was all in. She was able, she knew how to make up her mind and ride that thing. And let me tell you something. If you don't have that mindset, if you don't have the ability to make that decision, you ain't ready for marriage the first or the second time. You will find yourself in the same position again for a second or third or fourth time. But it's not until you make up your mind that you know how to be disciplined and that you decide, I'm riding or dying.
You better say that, Pastor.
I'm just telling you that's how it is. It's scripture. This ain't pastor. Listen. So listen. You also know you're ready. You know she was ready because her good reputation preceded her. Chapter 2, verse 7. Chapter 2, verse 7. She was a hard worker. She wasn't looking for somebody to just take care of her. Let me hasten here, because it was very common for women to be taken care of. But it was also common for them to have a job, especially if they were widowed. They would, they would sell purple, they would sell perfume, they would do things. In fact, when we talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, she was a businesswoman. She was an activist in her community, all those things. And she made her own money, right? But understand this, she was a hard worker. She didn't just use her circumstance as an excuse to be whatever. She was a hard worker. It's right there in chapter 2, verse 7. But then watch this in chapter 2, verse 18. Let me read chapter 2, verse 18 to you. I don't know if that's one of our scriptures up there. But in 2:18 it simply says, she carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten up. Now let me tell you what has happened then. She had a lot of grain and some stalks, and she shared it with those in her house. Let me tell you what that means. She understood that it was not about her.
Yeah.
Let me try it one more time. If you're going to start forever again, you better understand, and I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about men, it is not about you. It is not about you. It is about both of you. It is sacrifice on both sides. But it's not about you. And so the moment that you make it about you, your relationship starts to go down. And then listen, chapter 3, verse 11. We got to read this, chapter 3, verse 11. It simply says here, I'm preaching on this new Bible. My old Bible is easy for me to find. It says, and now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Let me hasten right here, because I'm through now. But understand something, that your character, your reputation must precede you. You know what I'm trying to say? Let me Batsonize it. Listen, don't be a nickel out here looking for a dime. If you don't have good character and you ain't about nothing, stop looking for people who are about something, because you can't do nothing but bring them down. Be about something so that when you meet somebody, y'all are both bringing something to the table. Besides your appetite. Listen. I'm through. The last thing, chapter 4. We read that last. It says, God never leaves us without a redeemer. Boaz took Ruth She became his wife, and when he made love to her, the Bible says the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Let me tell you why that's significant. Because the other gentleman turned her down, watch this, on the possibility that she'd have a son.
Wow.
Boaz married her hoping she would.
Yeah. It's a difference. It's a difference.
Listen, I don't want to be too much in this sermon. But there are times when you see them 2 lines. And you celebrate. Yes!
Yes!
I can't.
Okay. Right.
And all the time.
And then
It's still there. It's still there.
take it again. I'm not sure.
You're still pregnant. I'm gonna let it sit there for
One saw value.
a real thing.
Well, the other one didn't.
Right.
Listen, I gotta stop with you. Listen.
That was a good word, Pat.
I want you to understand that you can start forever again. Oh, man, you can. God's got grace. He's got mercy. He can extend to us exceptional kindness. But y'all, we gotta be ready and we gotta be different. If you don't want to be different in your next relationship, then don't expect anything different. If you cool with the heartbreak and the heartache that comes with being who you are, then stay where you at. If you cool, knowing that you're gonna do this because you want to do it your way and you got your own plans, then just be okay with the heartbreaking heartache that comes with it. Because that ain't gonna change. You gotta change.
Right about it.
People ain't gonna change. You gotta change.
Yeah.
You gotta change. You gotta change. Because when you let God change you, then you can have a different expectation. But you'll also have a different perspective. You'll also have a different perception. And you'll have a different discernment. You'll say, oh, he cute, but ooh, I see you. See, the problem is right now you don't want to see it. Because you saw the car he drove, or you saw how handsome he was, or you saw how cute he was, you saw how his personality, and you saw those things about him or about her. You saw that she was fine. You knew she wasn't about nothing. You know she wasn't a real dime piece, that she may have been, that I'm not saying she wasn't fine. I'm saying she wasn't the one. But she was like, man, we'll deal with that afterwards. I don't know how real I should do in church sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I say too much.
Keep it real. That's why we're here.
But if you're not willing to be different, don't expect anything different.
Yeah. Right.
Listen, if you're here today, you never accepted Christ as your Savior. Listen, I'm here to tell you about a man who can make a difference in your life. I'm here to tell you about a man who changed this life. If you want to know why I try so hard to change lives, it's because I'm a changed life. Y'all got a great pastor now. I'm not trying to be self-serving. I'm saying in terms of who my character is now, than who I was before. Is all I'm trying to say. And so we thankful we can celebrate. God, I'm a changed life, and I'm telling you that God, I'm preaching about He'll change your life.
Amen. Yeah.
I'm a witness.
Yeah.
That right there in chapter 4, you saw where it said, He'll never leave you without a witness. Oh God, maybe you're saying, you know what, preacher, I am saying, and I do have a church home. All right, I am saying, but I don't have a church home. What I'm telling you today is, listen, I love to be your pastor. I'd love for you to come and grow with us. Come be a part of what I believe to be something great. And the greatest thing that we are a part of is just being the church. Just being the church. We're just trying to be the church. We're just trying to be the people that God has called and created us to be. Amen? And so if you say, maybe you're saying, preacher, I am saved, but I don't have a church home. I'd love to be your pastor. And if you are saved, and this is a church home, or you do have a church home, then listen, when we stand up, I'd like to do something I don't always have us to do. Just high five your neighbor and say, I'm good. Why don't we all stand? Why don't we stand? And if you are saved and you do have a church home, just high five your neighbor and say, I'm good. But if the person next to you could not high five you today, listen, tell them this. Listen, you know what God did? He placed me right by you so that I could walk with you today. And when you bring them on down front, come on down, listen. You don't have to leave in the same way that you came. God's got you. Will you come? Hallelujah. Let's go ahead and give lovingly. Let's give liberally.